Hi, everybody. Welcome to Coming In Hot with Caroline. I wanted to take a quick minute to thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. Please leave a comment, a like, a follow, a question, anything. We're happy to hear from you. So, John is here with us because we are going to be discussing family dynamics because you guys, we all experience this. There is no such thing as a perfect family, there is no such thing as perfect relationships. Everything takes work. And again, when you're born into something, it's an even more interesting dynamics. It's not like you can just necessarily walk away from your family. So I know that we both have had a lot of different experiences with this, different experiences. And then together we have actually experienced some family dynamics where we have had to really put our foot down. We've had to really create some serious boundaries. And I'll say, usually when you create boundaries, it's very hard for the people that have to abide by them. And that's usually what creates the most conflict. But if you can get through that, and I think we have, where I think people now respect our boundaries. And I think it's really helped us and made our own family dynamics better. So we're going to dive into toxic families. Again, my family obviously came from Cuba. And my parents were the ones that came over and kind of brought everyone over one at a time, slowly but surely. And I think that created an interesting dynamic because I think there was a lot of dependence on my parents. And I think a lot of the times, and I think now as an adult, we very much felt like, you're mooched off of a little bit. And I think that creates an interesting family dynamic when you are the one that is making more of the money, especially when you come to another country and you come over here. I think that person becomes quite responsible. People depend on them. And I think that created an interesting power dynamic with my parents and all the family members. My parents were definitely the wealthier ones of the group, per se, just here in the States. And it always created this interesting dynamic because, again, they were the ones that brought everybody over. They were the ones that would take care of everyone, pay for everything, host everything. And I will say that what's interesting now at the end, when they couldn't host and couldn't pay and couldn't take care of everybody, there was no one around. So I thought that was something to always take into account. And that's something I always think about and why I find boundaries so important now. It's because I honestly witnessed my parents do everything for everyone and no one be there for them at the end when they really needed it. So it kind of changed my idea of family dynamics. And I think, again, when people say blood is blood and like you have to put up with everything or forgive anything because it's blood, I don't necessarily see it that way anymore. I have created my own family, especially moving away and living far from home. I have found my own family here. I've created a family and it's not blood, but it has boundaries. People respect them. It actually suits me better. I get along better. It's, again, I've picked it rather than been born into it. Watching my parents and watching those dynamics really changed how I view things now. And I know for us growing up, and then you can say how you grew up, we were very much, my parents worked, we were home, they took care of everything, they took care of everyone. And we weren't really expected to, I wasn't really expected, I was expected to marry well, but I wasn't expected to work, the everyday jobs and the things my parents always said, we'll take care of you or someone will take care of you, which created an interesting dynamic because then my dependence on them became very controlling. And what I noticed was as we grew up, my sister and I, the way my parents would manipulate us and kind of use money as a tactic to control things, it became a bit toxic because, again, when we would get upset, I would expect a gift or something to be given to us as a sorry or as a, make it up to you. So it definitely up our view on money and, what love is, because I think my parents very much used money and buying you gifts as showing love, not showing you attention, not showing you affection, not actually showing up for you. But if they bought you something or bought what you wanted, it should be okay. So again, very toxic if you think about it, because they very much bought your love, really. And they would, again, when things were really hard, when they were fighting or my dad would be cheating, we would witness the gift giving, My mom would scream and yell and then she would stay, and it was all very confusing and to me felt very toxic. It was like I would see my mom hysterically crying, screaming and yelling, wanting to kick him out, and then cut to they was somehow drinking whiskey. My dad had a cigar and she had like a new Cartier watch and everybody seemed to be happy again. And like, I just didn't understand. And we were caught in the middle of that. So I found that to be extremely toxic. And that was a lot of my environment growing up. What was yours?
I wouldn't say anything was toxic. I think everyone has boundaries, whether they put it out there or not, they act in a certain way. And that essentially becomes their boundaries of what they tolerate or don't tolerate. And growing up in the Midwest, you tolerate more than you should. It's always like doing things you may not want to do because it's the nice thing to do, as opposed to developing those boundaries and saying, you know what, I'm not really doing this. But overall, no, everything was, for me growing up, good. Overall relationships and my mom and her sisters and brothers, we'd just see each other for the holidays.
But everyone got along?
Everyone got along, but it's like we were never where we had to spend so much time together as a family.
Did you guys have dinner together every single night?
We had dinner together every night. Yeah. And it wasn't all forced. I don't know. It's just weird. We're growing up on an island in the Detroit River. It's like smaller
it's
community.
Funny, like I look at your family dynamics, and what's interesting is if I was gonna because I love your parents, I just think it's interesting though looking at it because it was very much like they didn't cater to you guys. They didn't spoil you in any way. Like we were so spoiled, you guys were not.
Yeah, they showed up. They were there. Like
they were more
attend
there,
events.
Right?
Yeah, they would be at all their games. And I had my twin brother, so I didn't really need much. Mm-hmm. We'd go out and we'd go fishing and do things. We'd golf with my dad and mom. We'd take family trips as we got older. So there really wasn't, and even my sister would come, and she was 6 years older. So there wasn't any bad dynamics. It was fun. It was like, yeah, we'd do the holidays. But you don't realize everything until you get a family of your own. And your family then is no longer your parents. Your family now is your wife and what you create. And I think that's where the dynamics start really coming in. And you start seeing differences. Well, I think because I have an identical twin, our differences come out in our wives.
Okay.
And it's in the way you parent, the way you are overall with friends and relationships. And what I see is family dynamics evolve over time. And as long as you are clear on what your boundaries are, and I think not feeling the guilt of having to do something, because then that starts eroding.
How do you not get the guilt though?
Well,
I think women are guiltier. We have more of that mom guilt, and we do feel this guilt of having to take care of or having to do things for everyone. That's something I had to learn to say no and put myself first. That was a huge boundary I had to set, because I think as women in general, you do put everyone else first, and there is this expectation that you can break those boundaries.
Well, I do think it starts from, as you're a parent, you have kids, you are already setting your kids up for success or failure based on what you're teaching them, what you're showing them that you're doing, what you put up with, and how you actually work with them based on what they want to do or don't want to do. So you're setting a precedent. Like, for instance, what you saw with your parents. You said you saw the gift giving after essentially emotional abuse, right?
I would say yes.
And it became okay, and your mom made it okay by accepting it and moving on and staying, right? And so she's now taught you something that is now learned behavior.
That is actually true.
But you also have your personality is your personality when you're born. I see it in our two boys. They've always had their personality, and you're not going to evolve that. And there was just something I heard where you are essentially developed from what you are at 12, right? And it's these early years that are the most impressionable. But how much do you really change once you reach high school beyond, right? From your overall views, perspectives, and things. Yes, if something traumatic happens, you will change you can change, but you essentially who you are. And that's why it's so important as the kids see these things to make sure you have good impressions. And I think establishing boundaries with family, not having to force family, because forcing family, we've seen what it does.
Oh.
It creates, and across our friends, across ourselves, it just puts you in a dynamic where you just don't want to do it. You don't want to be there. And then, of course, you talk bad about it, or you talk about it and your kids hear it and others. And it just makes for a bad environment. So my view is family is who you have around you at the time, and your family can evolve. Even for your parents. With us being single and our relationship with my parents, us when we had kids, initially babies, and the stages evolve. And we have to also listen to what they want to do as our parents. Like, if they don't want to come and pick the kids up and babysit,
It
then
does drive me nuts, you guys.
And it drives you nuts,
honest.
but you have to accept it. It's like,
see, John
you can't
constantly
force it.
tells me that I have to accept it. And I will say, I'm going to be brutally honest. I did have an illusion in my head. And
Well,
John
that's-
always says this. I have these
Well,
crazy
that's-
expectations.
yeah, she builds up
great.
expectations
I
that
do.
aren't reachable.
Ladies,
and it becomes
you get me.
disappointment. No, what you always have to do is you under promise and over deliver. Set expectations low.
But
low. And
listen.
then you exceed it no matter what, and you're happier.
I know, but like we have high standards. I have
Well,
high
okay,
expectations. I have high standards. And yes, like there are certain things that like,
High standards, but high expectations of things you can't control is where your downfall is.
What?
And realistic expectations. You can have high standards, but it's got to be realistic. But then there's expectations of others, and you can't force others to do what you don't want to do, just like you don't want to be forced to do what you don't want to do by others to make them happy. Mm-hmm. You have to go through it yourself, and they have to allow you to go through it yourself, just like you have to let others go through it themselves. You say what your boundaries are and say, here's what my expectation is.
I guess, so my point is that I think what upsets me is, yes, I think there was an expectation again, and I'm going to say this out loud. I thought Midwest, I thought like super sweet, like want to take care of you, want to be like the perfect grandparents. Okay. Cause I knew that my parents were not going to be like emotionally available. I knew that my parents were not the type to come play with you, come take care of you. I was lucky I survived, right? So I was more the caretaker if you really think about it. So for me, when I saw your parents, it felt like, to me, I felt like I was going to get a break. I thought I was going to finally have parents that show up for you or take care of you again. I was yearning that. I mean, I'm telling you, my favorite show was Little House on the Prairie. Like, I wanted Charles Ingalls. Meanwhile, he was not a great guy in person, apparently. But on the show, I really loved that ridiculousness of the show, that illusion of what it was. I actually really liked it because I did not have that at home, and I did not have this, like when you said you ate dinner, and not to say it's perfect, because I know you said half the time you didn't even like what you were eating, and that your dad was being strict with you or whatever.
Chop suey, Mom, version of our chop
Sorry,
suey is
Sally.
terrible.
But that's the thing. But I was wishing I could have sit-down dinner, and that my mom would cook chop suey, and then we would all sit and actually have a conversation, because my dad was out till 11 p.m. I was eating cereal in my bedroom watching TV. My mom was probably in the room searching for him violently. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. It's like I was yearning, I think, a little bit of that when I heard Midwest and dinners every night together, and that very I think all American typical family. I think I was kind of craving that because I didn't have that. And what's interesting is that I did not get that whatsoever. It was funny. I was like, I was shocked that when I met your parents, and like we would all hang out and it was all very sweet. But when it really came down to the nitty gritty, and once we had kids, it was interesting to me, and I was hurt. I was upset. And you're right. It's not personal. It's not that they don't like us or they don't like the kids. It's they've done it. They've been there, and they're trying to enjoy their life now. But for me, I took that. They set their boundaries, and I was insulted and was hurt just because I really felt like, why don't you want to be with us? You should want to be here 24/7. These are your grandkids. Like, you should want to help. Your whole life was based on this. This is like go time. This is your time to shine. And they were like, no, thank you.
No, thank you. Hey, they were there doing yard work, gardening. But I have to, then I think back to my mom, and she was never there playing with us when we were babies. Like, she wasn't, or trucks or whatever. I had my twin, and fortunately I had a twin brother.
But I think that was hard for me to accept. Again, like when people talk about family dynamics, again, this illusion that we can create in our heads. And I think there's a lot of women out there that when you're young, you are dreaming of the husband, the kids, the house, the white picket fence, right? What people joke about. I don't know if that's the illusion anymore. I don't necessarily think that's the dream
There is
anymore.
still illusions of what you
There's
expect.
an illusion, but I don't think I think people have an illusion of being an influencer now, right? Like truthfully, if you think about it, things have changed. They have changed, right? That isn't necessarily what every young girl, more people don't want to get married and have kids now.
Well, you're right. But people's vision of what family is or what their life is, they have to either put it out there and then figure out what the non-negotiables are. Because yes, when you're looking for a spouse, if there's things that you expect, then you better, and those are non-negotiables, you better say it up front, because if you don't, and then you get to that point and it's not the way it is, you are going to be miserable. And whose fault is it? It's your own fault for not putting it out there and having boundaries and setting what your expectations are. Because you can build it up in your head, but if you don't tell other people what's in your head and get it out, then it's as much as your fault.
And also you can't pretend, you know what I mean? Like everyone kind of quiets down their voice a bit at the beginning, and people kind of play a certain way because you want to land the guy, but you're not really being honest about what you really want, what you really need, what you're looking for in family in future. Because again, like we've always said, you've got to be able to evolve and grow with that person, because you are going to change. John and I have been together 19 years, 21 together. And we have changed, we have evolved, we have grown. And I think we've had over the years, especially once we had kids, we had to start setting some serious boundaries with our own immediate families. We had a hard time, again, I think once our differences started to show, and I think that can happen in a lot of families. We got a lot of DMs saying that people were having a hard time with their sister-in-laws or mother-in-laws. That's a big thing where mother and daughter-in-laws have a hard time. Sometimes sister-in-laws have a hard time. And I will say, I found it hard. The family dynamics are hard. You are dealing with a lot of personalities. Again, they're not necessarily chosen. They're not necessarily people that you would choose in your everyday or be friends with. So you are having to realign and trying to okay, how am I going to deal with this? And I will say from experience, because that's what people were asking us. Yeah, John and I are going to be honest. We did have a hard time with our immediate family. John has an identical twin brother. He's married. Our best friends are part of our family also. We have best friends that are married to his brother. So it's very intertwined, the friendships and the family, which I think can get very dicey. And I think sometimes when you're close friends, which I think is the dynamics people have been talking about online, just when you are close and you're not getting along and it is family and it is a sister-in-law, so you don't want to fight with your husband, but you really are uncomfortable or unhappy, whether it's the mother-in-law or not. It is complicated, it is dicey, and we have dealt with it. John, what do you have to say about it? Let's dig deep.
I say you have to set boundaries. You've got to, whoever your immediate family is your family, right? That's core. The other players, you have to really know, what you will tolerate. And there's some people who tolerate more than others. And why are you actually doing it? Why do you want to spend holidays together? What's the benefit? Why do you want to go out and build relationships? Like, what really is the overall benefit to family? And is it because it's someone there that will take care of you after, we even put out a question around your parents. You sign a contract with your spouse when you get married, right? And someone even said in Spain that you also in the contract says that you will take care of their parents, which is really interesting. Yeah. So it's whatever your beliefs are, but you have to be aligned with whomever you are, because like I said, relationships evolve over time, your dynamic evolves over time, and people will grow over time. So saying right now that you have let's say you have issues with a family member, one of you may evolve over time and learn and grow and then want to have that relationship. Like, why was it that they didn't want to be around them or spend time with them? And that's what I think is the best thing. Don't force it, because I think forcing it just creates bigger issues. It will all come back if it's meant to be. So that's my perspective. Is I unfortunately have a cold heart and don't miss people, but it's.
I was just gonna say,
But-
you're a bastard, because I was like, joking, but you know what I mean? Literally, I was like, John, like I get emotional where I would want John, because John says like, oh, our family first, but John doesn't really like confrontation. Let's be honest. He's not confrontational. He doesn't like, he'd rather just swipe it under the rug, and you don't deal as much. I think I am definitely more hardcore when it comes to boundaries.
You're hardcore with a lot of things, yes. And
Wait, what?
well,
Jack said defend me.
But you learned you are definitely, you do speak your mind and you're confrontational, where I'm like, you know what? Why am I confronting someone? What is it? Is it to help me or is it to help them? And or teach them a lesson or do something. And I'm like, I'm one who's not like, are they going to really learn? I can let them know why, or if they ask, great. Otherwise, I can move on. If they come back, great. Things are like they were. So
but women, can you admit that
harbor
women
things a little
are,
bit more.
but it's not harboring. It's that I think women in general are more emotional. I think we are more
Yeah.
emotional. We do calm down. I think we are more emotional. And I do think that like, you know, like we feel more. We just do. Let's be honest. Men are cold hearted. Women are warm blooded. Okay.
Me, John,
Yeah.
me, hunt, and kill.
It's true though. There is a difference. And what would affect me, again, and I think this is the hardest part of marriage, is understanding what's really important to that other partner and what affects them. Because I always say to John, it might not affect you, but it affects me. And the way a family member, let's say I find out that someone's talking shit about me, I don't sit with it as well. I'm a little bit more like, I want to understand what's going on. Why would I want to spend time with somebody who's talking shit about me? Or, you know, I'm more a little bit like, I don't want them at my house eating my food and enjoying me, and me, I'm sitting here being so nice, and then they walk out the door and then they're talking shit about me. I don't like putting up with that, where for you very much are like, whatever, it's family, they talk shit, it's fine. Like, you don't really care. It doesn't affect you. I was affected. I felt more like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I very much felt more like, you don't get to use me. Do you know what I mean? And I think I felt, I think for me and family and when people are around, I think you can feel used and you can feel taken advantage of, the same as you could from a friend. But I think with family, there's a different feeling to it. Mm-hmm. And I do think it's kind of like, it doesn't always feel like a give and take. Sometimes it feels like people constantly take. And I think that's where, when people say sending boundaries, like I personally, like, I don't care if you're my sister, my sister-in-law, my best friend, my grandmother. If you don't make me feel good and I don't feel happy around you, or I feel like judged or constantly criticized, or I hear you're talking shit about me, like I don't care who you are. I don't want you around me. I don't need you in my house. I don't need you around my kids. I really don't. Like, for me to pretend that everything is fine, knowing that someone isn't like that good of a person, is hard for me. And I think that happens a lot in family, and happens a lot when you marry, because you don't necessarily like them, right? Like, there are people that you could be like, look, I really don't like them, and you kind of have to make do. But I feel like as I got older, it's harder to make do.
Yeah.
Because I kind of don't want to hang out with people I just don't like.
Well, there's your boundary.
But what happens when you're married and that's the boundary and it's family? That's what people are asking. Like, someone's in a fight with their sister-in-law and they want to know what to do. And how do you handle family outings and family dynamics?
Well, again, your spouse is one you've chosen and you have to have hard conversations with. And in trying to understand what is the benefit to having the family. Like, what is that? Because people like to have big families. We're all together and happy, and
more for the show.
And is it really what they want? And are they all happy, or are they all playing happy? And then everyone goes and talks shit. And I think that's where you get that. What are you really trying to get out of it? And if you enjoy the company and the time, but I do think as a culture, we're becoming more and more separated, and people are having more and more opinions and
fighting more over the opinions.
And
right?
yeah. And this is where people evolve. You've got to take your own journey. And unfortunately, family, it's just because it's family doesn't mean that you have to hang out with them.
So for John and I, again, if I have to go into a situation where maybe I'm not very happy about the people attending, there is a world where at the beginning when things were hard, John would go alone, and I would be like, I'm not going to separate John from his family if I'm having a problem with it, right? Like if I'm having a hard time
Right.
or I don't want to be there, then I can't expect John to not want to be there. So he has every right to go. He has every right to take the kids. But if I'm not going to feel good, if I'm going to be in a bad mood, if it's going to put me in a bad place, I'd rather separate myself. And for me, that's the boundary that I needed to set, because I just
Yeah.
don't want to keep putting myself in a situation where I'm unhappy, I'm stressed, I'm not feeling good. And it's, again, I always say to John, it's like, why do I have to sacrifice my happiness if no one else has to sacrifice anything? So I felt very much like you either have to separate yourself, or how much can you deal with for an hour or two, right?
Right.
Like you have an event, and if it's important for John, because I know for his parents, yes, it is important for family to be together. It's important for them to see everyone having fun. And again, for me, it was, okay, what is that boundary? And how could I deal for 2 hours? Yeah, I could deal for 2 hours. There was a time I couldn't. There was a time that I was like, you know what, this just isn't healthy for me and I don't want to be around people. And then there's a time, as John said, you would start to evolve, you start to change, you start to grow, and you start to be like, okay, maybe I can be around for an hour or 2 if it makes other people happy. I can deal with that. So it's like, again, being honest with what you can deal with, and me being to John, like, I can do about 2 hours and then I got to go. Like, I can't stay all night. I don't want to pretend. I don't want, and John has to respect that too, right? As the boundary.
Yes.
Because you are more easygoing in that sense. You can walk in, not really talk, walk out, and you're fine. I think with me, it's harder because I think there is an expectation for me to talk, be chatty, be fun, and be
yourself.
there and be myself. But you can tell when I'm not feeling that. And it's like, I will get quieter. I don't really want to hang. And I think that's what becomes obvious. So rather than make everybody uncomfortable, I'd rather separate myself. So that's just a boundary I have set, whether it's even within my own family. Like my sister and I, we now very recently, as my dad passed away, speak occasionally. And we spent about 5 years not speaking. And to me, thinking I only have one sister in the world, it's devastating to think that we are just not close, especially because I am a girl's girl. I've always wanted a family and a big family. I've always wanted a sister who is a best friend, but that's just not the cards I was dealt. And I started to have to understand and accept the fact that the relationship just isn't going to be what I want it to be. And I had to set that boundary that, you know what? I can't kiss ass. I can't pretend it's okay. Like, I have to separate myself, because at the end of the day, I always walk away feeling like shit. Always walk away stressed or not feeling good. So for me, it was like, I know it's family. Most people are like, that's crazy. You're not going to speak to somebody. But for me, it was a boundary that was necessary for me to feel good and for my own mental health. So for me, it's like, I think it's super important for you to always put yourself first, put your family first, because you not being a good version of yourself anywhere and your kids seeing that, I don't think that helps anybody. Because like me being a bitch at your parents' house or something, that doesn't help anybody. So I think you have to be really honest with yourself. And it isn't easy because, again, when you set boundaries, it usually upsets the people that are taking advantage of you and the people that, get something from you, because as soon as they're cut off, they're pissed, right? So I think that's what's so hard about setting boundaries, especially with family, because that's usually who really takes advantage the most, because it's the easiest, the excuse of family. But I think it's usually the most important boundaries to set. Even my parents used to fight all the time, screaming and yelling in our house. John hates the screaming. I grew up with all the screaming and yelling. I start screaming and yelling. Nothing ends well. And we literally had to tell my parents, because they would come to visit. It would upset John. It would make the kids uncomfortable. And I had to literally tell my own parents, you're not welcome here. You cannot stay here if you are going to scream and yell like that. If you're going to be fighting the whole time, like, we do not want our kids. Like, that was your household. I grew up in it. It f***ed me up. I don't like it. And we don't want our kids growing up like that. So we literally said, you just can't fight here. And if you do, we're going to ask you to leave. And I have to say, they really were pretty good about it after that. Like, they really made an attempt. But again, it's not an easy thing to say. It's not an easy thing to ask from your own parents. But again, I'm most important. My family is most important.
Well, I think the hardest thing is self-reflection as you get older, and the older generation, and going, okay, wait, what? Why do I have to change? This is what we did when we were younger with you. It's like, and we know things have evolved, culture has evolved, approaches have evolved, everyone's own beliefs evolve. So you really do have to it's self-reflect and go, okay, am I doing the right thing or not? And is there something I could do to change to be able to fit in and want to spend time, if you want to spend time with, especially as we get older. And it's going to have to happen in being with our kids. And then what do we do with our parents? As my parents get older, you have to talk to your family about that.
It's so, I mean, what's interesting is you don't want to get to the point where what happened with my family, where one daughter literally writes you off because, again, nothing, no boundaries were ever set. There is so much anger and resentment. There is so much childhood trauma that instead of dealing with any of it and wanting to help or wanting to take care of, wanting to talk, it's like she literally was like, see you all later, take care. And that's not good either. Again, no one ever talked. They set no boundaries. Both my sister and my parents would the back and forth was insane to the point where now no one speaks. And was that really helpful? No. That's why the boundaries really are important, because again, it's being able to stand up for yourself. But I think every time my sister would stand up for herself, my parents were very controlling. And so they would threaten you with taking things away or not paying for something or not doing something. Because again, money was always used as a tool. And it was always used as a tool of control. That's why I always say money controls you, because it does. When somebody is paying for everything, you will quiet your voice. You will put up with shit you were never thought you would. Like, you will stay. You will. Like, that's the thing. And the boundaries change when that happens. So for me, witnessing that and watching that, it was brutal to watch. And I think that really made me very headstrong in knowing what I want, what I need, and putting it out there and saying it, because again, no one can read your mind.
So what type of grandma do you think you'll be? And what boundaries would you set?
I think what's so hard is I feel like I do want to see the kids. Like when
our kids have kids.
That's what I mean.
We got some time, I hope.
And we definitely have some time. But what's weird is it's like I think it's so crazy that the grandparents don't hang out more, that they don't hang out more or play more. I feel like I will be around more and want to help more. I don't know, but that's how I feel right now. I feel like we're going to be.
So you would move to where your kids are?
I mean,
to be closer to take care of their kids.
I think it really just depends, like what we're doing. I mean, listen, I don't plan to stop working. I feel like I've been so fortunate to find, and I think, a lot of parents end up staying because they don't have anything else going on, that they do end up, taking on that grandma role, and it becoming, you go from raising your kids to raising your grandkids, because that's all you really know and all you've done.
Or you just love it.
Which is amazing. But for me, it's like I really am loving working. I'm loving being busy. I hope to have a lot of adventure and travel and opportunities. And I think things have changed so much. I think things are so different. But I mean, Finn always says that he's going to buy a house and I can live in it and I can take care of his kids. So hopefully that's an option.
He said he's buying a house in Ohio, so because he can get a bigger house.
We got to do what we got to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would move closer to be around my kids and the grandkids, because again, I've seen how hard it is to have no family around and no help, to feel so alone. And again, it is so overwhelming that I actually would want to help. And so I think I've taken it not in the sense of, oh, I've been there, I've done that, I don't want to do it anymore. I think I feel like now that knowing what I know, I would want to help and give them, especially their wives, the break that they need. What about you?
I think sometime to be near them. Yes, you want to have time, but you also want to have breaks.
Well, that's why I would think it's so important to have a place that your kids want to come home to. And again, having a home where it's happy. And I think that there are boundaries where your kids actually want to come back and spend time with you. I think you've done an incredible job as a parent, because I know for me, like, I always wanted to take off and go.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be home because it was very stressful at home. So I think my greatest joy would be my kids wanting me around, wanting me to spend time with them. And I think, having a place, or listen, if I'm lucky enough to have like a second, something in a lake or somewhere that we could all vacation or go to and spend time together. And if they're married with kids, that they can go on vacation. I love seeing that. That's the one thing I regret with my parents or even our families, is that, we don't all spend time together. We don't all vacation together. Like, I had hoped for that, because I do see groups that do that. And I think it's beautiful. If you have a close, healthy, happy relationship, I think it's amazing. It is very stressful when there's a lot of personalities and not everyone's getting along, and there's a lot of secrets and bullshit and like that I don't like. Yeah. So for me, I'd rather be alone than in bad company. But I hope that we set up, that we provide them with a safe place to come home to, and that they want to come home, that it's fun, that they don't feel like, oh, I don't want to hang out with mom and dad. It's so stressful at home. That's how I felt. So I hope that it's a calm place that they want to spend time with us.
Yeah, I want, one, to be able to do vacations with them. Two, I want them to come home, because I've always said with my kids, at some point they're going to say, you know what, thanks, Dad, for teaching me the lessons. I appreciate it now. That will come at some point for the kids, like why you did certain things. Like you'll learn. I don't care if you don't like it now, but it's for your own good. And I think I'll get there with both boys. Well, and I think that hopefully Finn too.
Well, and like what you get from, I think, your experiences, like I know with my whole experience with my sister, I definitely feel I have no tolerance for the boys fighting and for them not to be close, because me not having, me feeling like, God forbid I lose my mom, like I feel like I've lost everyone. Like I have no family left whatsoever, because my sister and I, we don't speak and we're not close. So I don't have that as a family member. So for me, when I see the boys, that's something that's made me very adamant to, not to say the boys won't ever fight, but I think they're really good about moving on, not taking things too seriously. They're never really physical with each other. Like they really don't fight. Yeah. And I think that really has taken, that constant reminder that we love each other, let's respect each other, let's have fun. And again, I think them watching us set the boundaries with our own parents and our own families, and seeing us make hard decisions, sticking to them, and even explaining to them sometimes why we're not spending time with family, or why something isn't working, or, why somebody upset me. I think being honest and saying, you know what, it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay if somebody doesn't make you feel good, whether it's family or whether it's anyone else. You're allowed to decide for yourself what makes you happy and what you're willing to put up with.
Yeah, and I think we don't have a tradition of going home for the holidays, right? We did when we were first dating. We'd go and see your parents and go to their place, and even with the kids. But then that stopped. But there are people out there who do fly every Thanksgiving or something, or Christmas. They go back home, or winter break.
What's interesting about us, John, is that I was thinking about this the other day. It's like I always wanted that, like, very typical, but like we don't have that. It's it's funny, like we grew, the way we are doing it, like
Thanksgiving we
would, but we don't do the dinners every night at the table. Like everyone eats whenever they want. We all like hang out. It's definitely not what I had imagined in my head, but again, it's being able to evolve and grow and say that doesn't necessarily happen, and that it doesn't mean it's wrong or that it's bad. It's like, I'm very traditional. I like things celebrated on the day it's supposed to be celebrated. John will celebrate your birthday 3 months later. Like he literally be like, his parents will literally call us and be like, hey, we're playing golf on the 24th. I know it's Christmas. How about January 13th? We celebrate Christmas. And I'm like, okay, I'm over it. Like no interest in celebrating Christmas in January. That's my birthday. I'm like, wait.
Yeah, well,
but I'm saying I'm very old fashioned that way. Like for me, I've had to kind of just adjust and kind of realize that it just is what it is, and you kind of make your own memories. But like that's something that still bothers me. Like I actually really would like things celebrated on the right day and like kind of make a tradition of it, but we don't have a lot of traditions like
we
that.
Would do Christmas morning, and my mom would do all the presents and everything, and the reason why we ate dinner together as a family every day is because, one, my dad was a teacher and my mom was home. She cooked. My dad was home because he was a teacher, got home at a reasonable hour, and we were all there. So we all ate together.
But we work from home. We're home 24 hours a day.
We were working, and we have calls, and we have other things, and we have things set up. Yes, you can set a schedule and cut it off, and some people choose to do that. We
do not
choose. Yeah.
As much as it's funny, as much as I want that,
I mean,
once it hits 6, I'm like, yeah, I'm out. I'm
yeah, I
exhausted.
had dinner with Teresa the other night by myself.
I did too. We all have to. I'm saying it's not that typical. Like,
Right.
hey, come down for dinner. It's funny. We all sit separate. Like, I'll sit with my mom, or sometimes you sit with
And we'll have
Finn. I'll sit
conversations.
with
And
Sawyer.
yeah, it's-
And listen, the kids are older in sports and school. Obviously, things change, and we're not all home or hungry at the same time. And it's okay. And listen, I grew up. I survived. I ate in my bedroom watching TV, and I loved it. Honestly, like I didn't want to sit and have to
Yeah.
talk because I didn't love sitting with my parents, but. Again, it was the illusion in my head.
Well, is it family time, and we find other ways to have family time. Like now that Sawyer's golfing, I'll go walk 18 holes with him, and so I spend 4 hours getting to know him and talk, and yeah, I can break him down by the fifth hole. I can have him start telling me stuff. Or
yeah, and I
maybe
do the
15th.
shopping with Sawyer. Or we go out, and me and Finn love going to our favorite restaurant and going chatting.
Like in Finn last night, just Father's Day night,
yeah,
he made
came
me
down.
pancakes at like midnight. Because he slept late, and then he's like, "Hey, Dad, you want pancakes?" I'm like, "Yeah," and so he made me pancakes, and we ate together and we chatted. And he has his time when he chats, and he's the most awake. Sawyer has his time. You have your time. Like,
That's
I know
true.
not to talk to you at night.
It's true. I'm more of a morning person. Night, I get so tired, and I think because I'm talking all day, I'm just exhausted
Yeah.
by the end of the day. I'm like, I can't
So-
listen to anything else.
I think just like that, you've got to adapt. And yes, we set certain boundaries, and you got to set those. And the same with extended family, people, friends, everything. Everything evolves. And if
It's just like when you have a baby. Women, all the moms are always like, you think you want everyone in the room, but then some women freak out, and then you think you want a mother-in-law or everybody with you taking care of the baby,
Yeah.
but then some moms are like, I just want to be alone. I just want my own house, or I don't want a mother-in-law there. Or it's funny because those are all boundaries that a lot of people avoid or don't do, and then feel a lot of resentment after. And again, it's just being able to be honest about how you're really feeling. It's not personal. We're all different, and our needs are different. And sometimes in the moment, it's like, again, when you're growing up, you think a certain thing would be perfect. And then when you're in it, sometimes you just want to be alone. You don't want anybody to bother you. And that's just the way it is. So that's why boundaries are so important. I do think they strengthen relationships in the end.
Well, okay. So what do you think about friends as family? And how have you seen it like over time, from when before kids, after kids, or during kids, and then as kids age? What's your overall perspective on that?
I mean, I think that friends are. I think I do have a lot of friends that I consider family. Again, having an estranged sister.
Well, what are you defining as family first?
Family to me is like, when I'm really upset, if I'm really stressed, like when my dad was diagnosed, it's like I didn't have my sister to call to cry to. So it's like, who am I calling, right? Or it's like when I'm celebrating something, who am I calling to tell? That to me is family. Like the people that you want to celebrate milestones with or celebrate life with, in general. Like when we have a special day, like who do you want to go that double date with, or who do you want to spend time with? And so to me, that to me is what emphasizes family. It's like the people that you feel at home with, you just know what that feeling is. Like I walk into your house and I can just sit on the couch and hang out, and there's a difference, right? Of like how you feel. So I think some friendships really can become family, the people that you count on, that you're spending a lot of time with. Like I spend more time with my friends than I ever did with my family. You know what I mean? Like people that you're seeing every day, whether it's at school, your kids' friends, parents, that you do spend a lot of time together. You lean on each other. You rely on each other. That to me is family, to be honest with you.
Yep.
And I think it changes and evolves because I think when the kids are little, there's a lot of camaraderie. I think everyone is so desperate for, just to talk, for an adult conversation, and just to feel like you're doing something right, that I think there's a lot of camaraderie. I think as the kids get older, I've seen the most separation now. I feel like as the kids have aged and as women are kind of getting into the empty nesting and kind of gaining their power back and gaining themselves back, I feel like people have separated a little bit more. I don't see people as much. When the kids were little, I was spending time with everyone all the time. And it felt like we were this tight-knit family. Now it definitely feels like everyone's kind of doing their own thing. And as the kids have gotten older, I feel like you don't talk as much. People don't share as much, to be honest. I think everyone's kind of doing their own thing, figuring themselves out.
Well, they're building their relationships, I think, stronger with their kids.
Maybe.
Doing more with their kids and more as a family. Whereas before you're like, you have your little babies and stuff, you're kind of needing friends to rely on to help.
The community.
Right. Community.
Well, we always say the village.
Yeah.
And to me, like, my friends have become the village. Like, my mom didn't stay with me for months helping me with the kids. Like, your mom came for a week, and that was, like,
Right.
we did not have help. So for me, when I needed something, or I was stressed, or I was bored, or I was lonely, it's like I turned to my girlfriends. I turned to the other moms, and that became family to me. And I think now, we talk more. I think now my friendships have turned more into like work friends, and I have evolved, I have changed, and I haven't needed that same camaraderie about motherhood or about like, I feel a little bit more, I know what I'm doing right now. I feel good in my skin. There isn't this insecurity or this not knowing. I feel very much like, know who I am. I know what I want. And I'm out there getting it. And the people I meet, it's more fits my future than my past. And I think in the past, it was much more about the kids.
Yeah.
How about you? Great.
What was the question?
I have no idea.
No,
Just blanked out.
friends is family. Yeah, it does evolve. It evolves the stage of life you're in. It evolves what you need to do with kids, where you want to spend your time, and then who you feel comfortable talking to and sharing. And you really have to understand what you're getting out of it, because family is, they've got your back, you've got their back. Where friends, it's like, what will they do for you, right? And you have to look at what their overall relationship is and where do you fit into that. And I think once you understand that, and it's again, understanding boundaries, understanding who you are to that person, because every friend, even for you, is a bit different, right? They act differently. As if you somehow, let's say you're not feeling well, or you have a medical issue, or
like,
you're
who are you
excited,
calling?
right?
Yeah.
Who are you calling for each of those really tells you what role they play in your life. And they're all different. It's not good or bad. It's just, it's different. And I think that's where you're going to lean on them for those things. And then there'll be people who lean on you for things. So it's, what do you really need? And the less you need, the less you rely on people to really fulfill that. And this is why your group of people can become smaller, that you're sharing things with. So for me, it evolves where you're spending time. It's not like you're not thinking about people. It's just, hey, I've got these things. This is important right now.
But it's also like a choice. Like now, with like when they're little, you go to everything, and you have to be like every birthday party, everything. You're trying to make friends with the kids, and you're trying to like show them. And it's funny now. I'm like, hell no, I'm not going to that party, or like, no, I'm not going to that kid thing. Or, no, I'm not going to school.
Right.
Like you do.
Well, we have so much other things
Yeah.
that we're doing, and so it is a balancing act. But I do think for the people out there who are listening, it's, if you're struggling with family, set your boundaries. Start setting it earlier, understanding, hey, what are you getting out of this relationship as well? And think about their perspective of like, maybe everyone's feeling the same way, right? Yeah. It's like, why, if your mom is getting more out of the relationship than you are, like, what is it? Does she have a hobby? Are you the only person that she can talk to about certain things?
Is it just entertainment?
And you're right. Or is it just habit, right? Just because you've done it for decades or wherever, does that mean you have to keep doing it? Is it because they don't want to change, or they don't want to evolve themselves? And yeah, you can be 70 and change and evolve and go find new things to do. You can. So
absolutely,
we talk about this in a previous podcast around aging parents. Get it going. They got to help make sure you figure out what their plan is. And so they're not dependent on you. And that's where you don't want to feel that guilt. And that's why boundaries are so important.
Because of that, exactly.
And the worst thing is, it was when they are depending on you.
And you're guilty.
And you feel guilty about pushing back because you're the only one they have, because they haven't planned. They haven't put together their own, haven't spent time developing friendships, haven't gone and developed hobbies, met people, put themselves out there, and you are their only source of people that they can talk
Hi,
to.
that's me.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's very, you want to know what resentment
Yeah,
resentment is?
yeah.
That's the resentment.
Because if I had my mom or dad call me all the time, every day, doing like, oh, this and this, I'm like, yeah, it's great for a little bit, but hey, I got to live my life too. So figure that out. Like, what is it? Like,
Yeah.
and also remember, it's a self-reflection. Realize how you are and how are you coming across. What are you trying to get out of it? Who are you relying on? Are you burdening someone else? Because
And why are you
to
putting up
satisfy
with
your
it?
own-
Are you
yeah.
getting something in return? For
Right.
me, I would put up a lot of shit because my parents were paying for shit.
Well, yeah,
So
kinda
you got to
had
be honest.
Right.
And it's like, if you don't want to put up with it, then you got to go make money and pay for yourself. Like,
Right,
that's just
right.
the truth. You had to set that boundary. So it's like, if they're going to pay, I have to put up with the shit.
Yeah. It's
That's
like,
just,
why are you all going and spending the holidays sleeping on the floor because everyone wants to be together in the house and wake up in the morning? Like,
No.
do you really, are you uncomfortable? Do you want to? It's like, if you can get the hotel that's right there, do you need to be there? So just constantly reevaluating. It evolves, but it's like how much you put up with before everyone blows up. Make the decision, evaluate it, have the conversation before it happens,
Deal
because you
with
know
it.
it's going to happen, and say, hey, look, we're evaluating this. This is why. And then ask, why do you want us all together? Or
And
why do
sometimes
you
it's
feel
like
this
they just
way?
want to tell their friends that everyone's
Well,
there,
yeah,
and
okay,
everyone's
yeah.
fighting and screaming and hates each other, but yet they just want to show. I mean, my parents used to be
They
like,
want to be the
"Don't you
perfect
dare!"
parent.
Yeah, they
don't
wanted
want
to
be
tell their
perceived.
friends that
Yeah.
everything was good. Meanwhile, everyone's screaming in the house.
That's,
So
and it adds
all
more
bullshit.
stress because
Yeah.
then people don't want to go and you have to go. So I think it's easier just to find where you're going to have the best relationship. Like, I do want to have trips. You loved trips growing up because it got
Yeah.
you away from the home
Yeah.
and what was happening in the home. I love trips because we did get to go out and spend time together, have fun, and see new things. And my parents paid for it, and we loved it. We in college and things, and it was just a time away. And so I want to do that with the boys.
Yeah, me
you're,
too.
You're hanging out as opposed to parent. Like, you're not
Yeah.
parenting. You're more just having a good time.
I was just getting the free
And-
trip.
Yeah, well,
But they
you
were
would go-
fighting the whole
yeah,
time.
you would go off on your own. Where my parents wouldn't fight. We'd go still have
Like, you guys
go
actually
fight.
spent time together.
Yeah.
That was the difference. Yeah,
Yes.
my parents would be fighting the whole
We go
time.
golf. So I think toxic relationships don't have to be toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Put up with what you want to put up with, and know the reason why you're putting up with it, and know the reason why someone else is putting up with your bullshit too. Because honestly, we all got bullshit. And so
Oh,
just
yeah.
realize it. Don't go just one way.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a two-way door. So realize it, address it, bring it out, because they may be thinking the same thing.
Yep.
And go, thank God.
Guys, boundaries. Honestly, the greatest gift you can give yourself.
Yeah.
All right, we love you all. We're going to take off. John, thank you for being here. We love you. Okay, guys, we are back next week with another episode. Please like, review, follow, leave a comment, leave a question, leave a topic. We are here listening, and we love you. See you next week. Have an amazing week. Don't forget to get up and get dressed. Mwah. Bye.